Hello. Today we're going to look at a couple new types of safety analysis for a robot production cell. We're going to start with some of the legacy interfaces that we have under run safety analysis for this robot production cell, such as HazOps and LOPA and Bowtie analysis. And then we'll spend a bit of time going through the HazID methodology, which correlates to, it's kind of an input for Bowtie, but uses one of our new interfaces you might recognize from our safety case workflow to do something a little bit more unique. Okay, before we get started, let's take a look at what actually composed this project already. And to do that, we'll go back to the HARA that we've already performed here. So we can click Select from Project, and we can see the existing project components, all of which were a variety of different machines, and then all of their safety devices and other components that we had previously used to produce this HARA. So we can go back up here, and we can select, for example, the robot production cell, which selects for us all of these details. So some particular system name, the operating environment, et cetera, et cetera. Not all of those were necessarily present, but we did have, for example, a system description, an operating environment, and a number of tasks that have been used to produce the risk assessment, which is right here. Items like crushing hazard and the pinch point hazard, etc. Let's take a look at how many hazards we had really quickly. Not too many. Okay. There were only 5, but that gives us a starting place. So let's go take a look at some of these other analyses. Okay. First things first, sorry, wrong place, run safety analysis. Let's try out the HazOps. So just like our previous FMEA generator, the first thing you have to do is select a quote unquote requirement to generate off of. And this might be an actual requirement of the of the project, like a failure mode or a hazard, or it may actually be a full system. So in this case, we may need to create a new item, like for example, the top level item, such as the robot production cell for palletizing, which will be just enough for us to start this process. Great. So this is not a default child component. This is actually a HazOps and LOPA. It's a machine rather than a component, and that's really all we need to specify. So we can click generate, and in just a sec, this will bring back a HazOps and LOPA. And there we have it. So we have a couple of hazards that were suggested by this particular technique, and then the layers of protection that are recommended for those. So you have some cause for the overpressure in air supply arm, air supply to robot arm from the failure of pressure regulator, and the consequence is damage to robot arm, potential injury to operators, some safeguards, maybe a pressure relief valve and regular maintenance checks. Severity is rated in this way, frequency on that level, and the still target, as well as some recommendations install redundant pressure regulator. Now, you can tell a little bit that, at least in the heat generation and the overpressure, there's a little bit of a bias to process systems because in our experience, HazOps are typically largely used in process industries, but you can still obviously use all of this just as you'd like. And as always, you can go and view this in the table. That's the traceability matrix. You can filter down to just the piece that you care about, which in this case is not this, but rather it might be, I actually have no idea. Maybe it's text. No, those are one of these. Our analysis, maybe hazard. Yeah, some of these that you can view and check out all the different columns for. Okay, so that gives you a sense of what the HazOps and LOPA workflow looks like. Bowtie is very similar, but you'll see the different items that get generated as a result. So we can create a new item again. We can say this one again is a robot production cell. Actually, better than that, we're just going to refresh and we'll be able to view the one that we created. I'll pause for a sec. And now that we're back, we can try this again. So Bowtie analysis. This time it'll let us select the one that we had before, the robot production cell. Go back here. Bowtie analysis is pre-selected across the other safety analyses, and we'll give that a shot. I'll pause while that generates. And there we have it, the output of the Bowtie analysis, which says you implement a real-time communication interface using these standards for status monitoring and task updates. The description, generate a system, a little bit of a different generation, not necessarily as effective, which is why typically we'll go the path of using the new mechanism. So this new mechanism is going to look a lot more comprehensive because this is actually where all analyses and cases are converging within Saphira. So this is a generic workflow builder. If you're using Saphira, you can actually use this to configure any type of workflow you'd like, way beyond HazID. We've already done this for ISO 2662, 21434, in this case, obviously 31000, but you can really use it for anything. Even, we've recently done this for 2701,